Hello, and welcome to Poems You Need, where two poets who believe in the transformative power of language share the poems that sustain and inspire us.
Hi, I'm Kelli Russell Agodon,
And I'm Melissa Studdard.
and today we're reading poems by Susan Rich from her new beautiful book, Blue Atlas, which was just published by Hen Press. The poem I chose is called Metaphors, and it's after another favorite poet, Sylvia Plath, of a poem by the same name. The difference is Sylvia Plath's poem is an autobiographical or somewhat autobiographical poem about her pregnancy. And Susan's poem, Metaphor, takes a different look at that. So Sylvia's poem became like a doorway for Susan to explore a more difficult topic, which is a coerced late-term abortion. And that's what Susan's is about. And it's also called Metaphors after Sylvia Plath. 3 syllables, 1 stressed. Unfinished dance step, unripe mango, an infinitesimal bean sprout cut back to a nub. I'm the interrupted battle of bullfight and God, the abandoned ballroom, abeyant moon, conundrum of choice, no choice, watermelon seedlet, scalpel shaving, thick mead, hello, turned off oven, confused stork. I am your desired, your dreaded almost. Blue atlas and weeping willow, the past seen ahead, the necessary tomorrow.
Wow. I am so grateful to you for telling what that poem is about, because the first time I read it, I was kind of like trying to navigate my way through the images and trying to figure out how they related. And once you know, it's just really pops. Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I was just kind of like, oh, the metaphor, like, she's writing about metaphors, and it was so ironic because I was taking it literally, the title. But I also kind of am interested in looking at that side of it too, which is just that I noticed throughout this particular collection that she is kind of considering different things about language and how language works. And, just as a poet at a certain stage of your career, how is this language functioning? So I thought that was just really interesting in this poem. And the metaphors are really, really powerful. Um, yeah.
Yeah, the like unripe mango, the mango never made it to being ripe or finished. And the abandoned ballroom, which, I took for the womb, now empty. And
That's a great one.
yeah, there's even a little bit of like dark humor in here with the turned off oven, because I thought about, if you know the history of Plath, that's how she committed suicide. And the confused stork, which I thought was, you know, it was storks were of the, back in the day with the babies, but the stork was confused. Is there a baby or no baby? There was a baby here or a fetus here, and now there's nothing. So I thought she really, made some powerful, like you said, metaphors about an abortion.
Right. And, overall, the whole like sense of adjectives throughout the poem are just like unfinished, interrupted, unripe, abandoned, confusing. It's just they all come to like a lack of completion, which is such a powerful, overwhelming feeling in the poem.
That's such
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, that's such a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but yes.
I think also you are the one who usually thinks of these wonderful prompts for people who are watching, but this idea of taking a poem and doing the opposite. I actually did that in grad school. I wrote a poem. I took Dylan Thomas's Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, and instead of to the father about dying, I made it to the mother about living. And so I just think it's a really interesting thing to play around with. And I think it would make a really good prompt for people.
Yeah. Well, it helps poets. I mean, it's a doorway into other topics. So if there's a topic you're having a hard time writing about, you can just kind of, use another doorway to get into it and kind of get out of your own way. And I
Right.
also I wanted to point out, she also has Blue Atlas in here, which is the title of her collection. So I'm always interested where poets sneak in their title.
That is so cool. Just like sneak it in somewhere, like not in the titular poem, but just snuck in randomly. So that's something we can all look for in each other's poems. It's fun. Okay, so the poem that I chose is called Try Now to Be Done with Words. And I chose this one because it's a really sort of lovely invocation to the muse. And I also I have this sense in this poem of someone who is wanting so desperately to connect directly with physical life and the physical world without this intermediary, which is a very powerful thing for a poet who loves and is obsessed with language, as all poets are, to be like, I want language out of the way. I just want to be connected. And it kind of made me think about this time period that we're in where we're with our screens so much, and we all have that longing. I think it's portrayed so beautifully in this poem. So I will go ahead and read it. Try now to be done with words. Away with the language of weeping. The angel of perfection can go hang herself and burn her lilies of ambition too. Try to be done with the golden bees, the envy of another's sainted breathing. Instead, embrace the outer orchard, the well water, or terrestrial music of shave and shower, honey and tea. Away from the temple, forget supplicants. Sign on for this season's must have boots. What you want is what you have always wanted: blue fountain, Moroccan, and the Arabic abjad, drink and belief. Double note of window and world. Go past the tendrils of line breaks to forget dactyls and old apples, the symbolic you. No more words. Tomorrow you will revel in the call of olive groves. Oh, brave mouth and touch and scent, send coherent messages through this body, like flares off a meteor shower. You can become your own glass sponge, move through this world, silent, astonished, undone.
Thank you for that beautiful reading. You could really, the way you read it, you could really hear the music in here. I was taken by so many images. For sure, the must-have boots on for this season's must, because it was so unexpected.
Right.
A lot of things are unexpected. We have the angel of perfection can go hang herself, which is super freeing. And that idea of like, hey, I'm done with perfection. I'm tired of it. And her lilies of ambition. And so I like how there would be a word like ambition and then mixed with a concrete noun of lilies. So I thought that was a really in the angel of perfection, same thing, a concrete noun mixed with an abstract word, perfection. So I loved just being kind of taken for a ride in here, and how like dactyls got in here and the tendrils of line breaks. I thought that is so interesting to think of, like a line break as like a tendril.
That's a really interesting point, because it's almost like in that instance, she's doing the opposite. Like she is, instead of language bringing the natural world to you, the natural world is sort of like reconstructing the language, or it's not, I don't want to say invading because that's not the right word, but it's like
Woven through the language.
hmm?
Is it like woven through the language? Like the natural world is kind of.
Yeah. I mean, I think it takes it beyond metaphor in a way.
Mhm.
That's really interesting. It's like yeah, it's weaving its own self through the poem. It's like that's how much like nature is calling to her, right? You know.
Right, in the olive groves, like, you will revel in the call of olive groves. It's that I want my own olive groves. I'm feeling it in the poem, but now I want to actually go out into the world and experience it like
Yeah,
my
that's
own grove.
definitely one of the beauties of a poem like this, right? It just calls you out into the world. And I love this part about, oh, brave mouth and touch and sense and coherent messages through this body. I mean, she's really invoking, you get the feeling she not only wants to go out and experience these things, but she wants to bring them as directly to the page as it's possible. And by directly, I don't mean not metaphorically. I just mean as powerfully, as poignantly as, to make the reader feel as much like they're there as is possible without actually being there.
Right, right, and there's some like, I just was thinking about this, ending, "You can become your own glass sponge." I thought that is so intriguing because if you're glass, you're not gonna soak anything up, so maybe to me what that meant was, like, maybe you're self-contained and glass can reflect, and so as a poet, she's reflecting all these images onto the page without, like, soaking them up, and when you are, like what you said, reading a poem, you are experiencing it in your mind, but you're not experiencing it really out in the world.
That's really, really interesting. And also, you could look at it as going out and just having the experience firsthand without trying to bring it back to someone else. So it's like there's this sort of conflicting feeling in here of wanting to bring it back, but wanting to just experience it,
Right.
is really interesting. And I love just after all the metaphor that's been in all of these poems, to have those last three words of the poem just be silent, astonished, undone. And she does that there. She speaks directly to the heart and brings up the feeling and the idea of a sort of ecstatic joy that you can have. Um,
Yeah, and it circles back to the fourth line where she wrote, "Try to be done with
mhm.
golden bees." So I love that when poets then at the end, the speaker is undone, like saying, "Move through this world, silent, astonished, undone." And I love that idea because that also goes back to imperfect, just undone.
Right, right. And also the idea that by being done with the things that you don't need in this moment, you can be undone in the right way.
Very present. That's wonderful. Yeah, it's a beautiful poem with so many great images throughout.
It
And
really,
I like how the poems show the different style of Susan, but also the same voice.
yeah, totally. You can really, really hear that voice, that same voice with just demonstrating all kinds of different techniques across
Mhm.
the yeah. Yeah.
Really
What?
great poems. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for celebrating poetry with us today. Information about the poet and works featured can be found on the episode page. And if you enjoyed today's reading, please press the like button and subscribe so not to miss another poem. You can also share the episode with a friend, and we hope you do. Until next time, we wish you beauty, inspiration, and very meaningful days. May you always have the poems you need.